This time on No Not the Mind Probe, episode number 93, Artificial Hootelligence.
Welcome to No Not the Mind Probe. That was a robot.
Very good.
I don't know why I pronounced that. That was a robot. That was a robot. That is more sophisticated
By the way,
pronunciation.
Had a robot done the intro to this show, they would have gotten the episode number right. It's episode number 92.
Oh.
You know, we need to get the AI in here and clean things up a little bit.
We could power through the rest of these if we just let an LLM do it. What would we? I should. You know what? I have access to. Folks, I have access to ChatGPT.
What?
Yeah. So I should ask it. Please write the script for an episode of No Not the Mind Probe, hosted by a lifelong Doctor Who fan and a Doctor Who neophyte, and see what it would produce.
And by the way, these are all scripted. We perform these scripts to the letter. It would be great to not have to write them and just have to perform them. That'd be nice. Yeah.
And then even, I mean, because the writing, obviously, so for, behind the scenes, folks, of this podcast, where we watch and rank the first 300 Doctor Who stories, slip that in there. But behind the scenes, how it generally works is, we do a week of scripting. And then we storyboard first. Yeah. Then a week of scripting.
We got to break the season first. So we got to just figure out all the plot lines that are going to happen that season.
Running season. Will there be love interests for us, etc., etc. And then we do we storyboard. We do the scripting. Then there's rehearsals.
Those always get vetoed by our husband and wife.
No, just us. And again, we don't know why. We can't even explain why just us. But there it is. And then there's rehearsals, extensive rehearsals, and blocking. I mean, if you watch on YouTube, which is where you can watch this, the blocking is very challenging for this, but we get it done.
It's a dynamic podcast. I mean, there's lots going on.
And one of the dynamism elements is, as longtime listeners will note, Paul, we just said we watch and rank the first 300 Doctor Who stories because at the last episode, we made a major declaration, which is that Porter, and Paul has actually called this out in his communiques to us, is that you've become a fan. He feels that you've slipped over into fandom. And so maybe the central premise of this is now lost. It's now two Doctor Who fans. So what's the point of listening anymore? And so, yes, we've decided that this podcast will reach the first, the 300 Doctor Who stories will go to the power of the Doctor. And at that point, you're on your own. So there's only so much we can do, people. We've done.
At that point, we're just going to turn the lights out and put our hat on, walk down a lonely.
It'll be the final episode of Cheers. Like they'll just be, sorry, we're closed. Well,
and by the way, what the part of the impetus for that is the 60th anniversary episode that just came out.
Right.
We're not going to talk about. We're very excited.
Yes.
It surprised me, and it was good. And then there were also bad things, but also good things. But I want to talk about it.
Right. And some things, definitely some classic Doctor Who things, and definitely some things that just are brand new. And obviously very excited. But we don't want to retroactively spoil that for anyone. I guess is how that works.
In fact, you might say it would be impossible for us to do so.
But one thing I will spoil is that my name is John Grant. And I am a lifelong Doctor Who fan. I've been watching it for 39 years and show no signs of stopping.
My name is Porter Mason. John asked me to watch Doctor Who for 27 years a few years ago. I finally said yes. Each episode we look at two stories. We are going through the newer series in order, and then John acts as a sommelier and pairs each newer story with a classic story. John, what do we have in store for this episode?
All right. Well, we're talking about alien war machines. We're talking about robots. We're talking about computers that are out of control. A classic Doctor Who theme. We've got Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, and Clara. And a big turn from Danny Pink.
Danny Pink checking in.
Around Coal Hill School, where the Doctor has taken on the undercover role, as he's very proud of how undercover he is, of the Caretaker. And so I paired that with another present day story. Set with also so the principal enemy in the Caretaker is an alien war machine, and so that made me think of The War Machines, a First Doctor story, First Doctor Dodo, and introducing Ben and Polly, and as we coming to the close of the First Doctor era. So The War Machines.
All right, we have The Caretaker. It is a series 8. And by the way, we're now going to be going back to seasons, right? That's what's rumored. So
I
we had
mean, well,
we
we're
had seasons for
resetting.
the original Doctor Who,
Yeah.
and then they
I,
called
I
these.
don't. I don't. Is there an actual difference? I just thought it was. It's like we call them chips and they call them crisps. I just thought it was seasons and series is
I
a
thought so
similar.
too, but the original Doctor Who, they do call them seasons.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's true. And then
well, anyway,
modern series, right
this is
in.
the right into us, and tell us what you think about series
Specifically,
versus
Russell T
season.
Davies. If you're listening,
Right
first of
in.
all, amazing. Second of all, explain yourself.
Well, anyway, we're still in the series on this podcast,
Yeah,
and
we'll
we're in
get
series
there.
8. This is episode 6 of the Peter Capaldi era. This is story number 247 of the 300 Doctor Who stories that we're going to be covering, and it aired on the 27th of September 2014. We have Clara, we have Peter Capaldi, and yes, we have Danny Pink checking in as, I don't know if he's sticking around, certainly a companion. I guess he hasn't traveled anywhere with the Doctor, but
No,
he's read into the Doctor now.
right? He's
They've brought him up to speed.
he knows who the Doctor is, sort of.
So John has prepared a clip that I'm going to play for you
It's the
right
kind
now.
of thing I do.
Right, Miss Oswald.
Yes, Calvin, I'm fine. You carry on.
Every feeling of displeasure against the former was so sharp.
Can I help you, Mr. Smith?
Wrong.
I'm sorry?
On the board. Wrong. Wrong.
Oh, no. No, you don't do this. You are the caretaker. This is not what you do.
Just taking care.
Not your area.
Jane Austen wrote Pride and Prejudice in 1796.
This is Mr. Smith, the temporary caretaker, and he's a bit confused.
Not in 1797, because she didn't have the time. She was so busy doing
And I
all
suppose what, she was your busy mate, was she? And you went on holidays together, and then you got kidnapped by Boggans from space, and then you all formed a band and met Buddy Holly.
No, I read the book. There's a bio at the back.
Get down.
Boggles?
Go.
Yeah,
That's the Caretaker. Yeah.
Boggans.
Lots of fun comedy at the beginning because, yes, the Doctor says he's going undercover, and basically he just shows up almost dressed exactly the same as a caretaker, which he takes great pride in, because when Clara sort of calls him out on that, saying, like, you barely look different, he's like, yeah, but you guys are so stupid. Like, no one would even, no one notices. And it's true. No one really is suspecting him as anything different, except one young student who I want to ask about.
Yes, Courtney.
Later.
He's also like, he comes in and he's not in it, but then when she calls him out towards at the end, she goes back and he goes, "You recognize me, did you?" She's like, yes, of course I did.
Yeah, so that's fun. He walks into the school where Clara and Danny are. We also see a bit more of Clara and Danny at the beginning of the episode, seeing how they're dating, and also how her, moonlighting job saving the universe with the Doctor is and isn't interfering with their dating. Like, she's not letting it, like, they are still maintaining this relationship, but it's causing lots of like little weird things she has to kind of paper over because she hasn't told him about this
Right.
other part of her life.
I thought it was a funny montage at the beginning, and I think shades of Amy and Rory trying to live the double life. But clearly, I feel like Stephen Moffat, while he's writing Amy and Rory, was like, "Oh yeah, wouldn't it be funny if one of them didn't know?" And then and so clearly he's like, "I want to do that this time," and so that's what he's got going on with this. And yeah, just nice little bits of like they're going out to dinner, and she's like, "Oh, I just ate I'm full. I just had a huge feast," or like he's like, "Oh, you're soaking wet," because she's
Yeah.
it's like so having fun with that, but also I think setting up a really interesting challenge for them, which is great.
So I really liked seeing this and basically that aspect of this episode, and I realized how much we've talked about it on previous episodes of the podcast, but this brought home to me, I really enjoyed it, and I realized how much I really needed this from Clara. And
Yes,
up until this point,
finally
I'm
gives you
like,
a story. Yes,
and then it also uncovered another thing, which is, so what were all these other weird insights into her life which seem completely disconnected now? Like, she still seems a little not fully fleshed out, and thankfully we're now getting this Danny part of her life, but like in a just an odd way, she doesn't seem like a whole person. Like, she seems like an invented character. And again, Jenna Coleman's great and lovely. It's just more the writing aspect of this, of like they've weirdly didn't seem to have thought through this companion that much in an odd way, even though she's been around for a season and a half.
Since the middle of the last Matt Smith season. I mean, I think the problem that we talked about this a little bit. I think the problem is that you had to introduce her as a mystery, so you couldn't give her a huge backstory when you started. And now he's been desperately trying to retrofit, some kind of story to her, but you can't. There's only so many gaps you can fill
because they've revealed these little pieces along the way, and they don't really fit together. The magic trick isn't there. It's sort of like, it would have been amazing. Yes, of course, they had to have her a bit of a mystery. And then she got really overshadowed by the changing of the guard of the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but we did see some more here. We got to see her with Danny. Danny's fun. The doctor does not like Danny because of this strange thing about soldiers, which we talked about before, that they try to introduce like out of whole cloth and be like, oh, of course, the doctor's always hated soldiers. Like, well, okay, I don't know. But he doesn't like him. He's very mean to him and dismissive of me. He keeps referring to him as the PE teacher.
PE.
Even though he's like, I teach math. And so we're definitely, again, getting some more caustic doctor with this. And he's there on a caper, but won't kind of tell Clara what's going on. Certainly won't tell Danny, but then they do finally find out. Anyway, he's here, a war machine.
The Scorvlax
has been
Blammer. I don't know. Something like that.
I don't know why it's there. It feels like it's like there accidentally or something.
I think that's right. It's lost there, or thinks it's on a mission or something. And
and then it's like, well, since I'm here, I might as well like blow up the planet.
Start killing people. Yeah. Gotta do what you gotta do. War machine got a war machine.
And so he's trying to stop it and is like, I don't want your help. And then Clara and eventually does like bring Danny into it. Danny, she's still trying to hide it. Danny comes in during one moment where he's I guess he's fighting off the machine.
Right. She's put out these things, MacGuffins, see last episode, to catch it, and then Danny has messed with a couple of them because he's suspicious of the caretaker. And then the doctor's got it in a trap, or thinks he's got it in a trap, but the trap doesn't work, and Danny comes in and interrupts him and sees the doctor and Clara basically improvising to defeat this thing, but only
Claire
temporarily.
tries to play it off as like, we're rehearsing for a play, which is sort of I thought that was sort of funny because it was that she knows this is, I don't know, I thought that was well played. And then they have a couple good scenes of the doctor again is very anti-soldier. It's such a specifically weird, because he's not saying like, I don't like war. It's like, I don't like soldiers. It's just very specific. Anyway,
comes out of nowhere.
But I think there is a good scene where with Danny saying like, oh, I know what this guy is. Like, he wants to be in charge. He's like, he's an officer. Like,
right.
He thinks he's better than everyone, knows plans. And I really liked how he started just like sarcastically like saluting him and being like, oh, yes, sir. Well, we better do what you say, sir. Oh, of course. I'm dismissed. Fair enough. And it clearly gets under the doctor's nerves in a great way. And so I like that, because I liked that he learned that he's this intergalactic space traveler, but still he's like, I still don't like you, and I'm going to, I mean, I don't like the way you're treating me, and I'm gonna give you crap.
Yeah, figures out his space very quickly.
Yeah, so that was cool. So and then that to me, that was that is the big thing of the episode. Then yes, we go on, there's War Machine. Danny does some acrobatics, which is just sort of random.
Very unconvincing flip.
It reminded me very much of, if you remember, I think it was Jurassic Park 3, where early on in the movie, there's a kid who, I think it's someone's daughter.
Oh,
stows away and like ends up on the trip. And in the beginning, they go through great lengths to say like, she's a gymnast. And you're like, I don't know why you're telling me this so much. It's like, no, that's because in the middle of the movie, she's going to have to she's presented suddenly with uneven bars and has to like do a bar routine to get past the Tyrannosaurus. So it reminded me of that. But yeah, he does that. And then we have a moment.
Known as Chekhov's uneven bars.
Yes. And then they have a moment at the end where we basically come to an understanding. And it's because the doctor is sort of very silent and stops getting snippy with Danny.
Mm.
And then Danny and Clara's like, what's going on exactly here? And he's like, because like he gets it now. And basically he's like, what are the exact, it's good words. I don't know if you have this written down, but he says, you'll basically like, he's there to help.
Yeah.
And he's there to like almost like protect Clara, basically.
Right? Yeah, as long as you protect her. It's a very fatherly, I think, almost thing, right?
Oh, one more thing before I hand off. There's a cute thing earlier in the episode where he does suspect that Danny and Clara are dating, but
Yes.
then but she's kind of not specific about it, and then he sees her with kind of a foppish English professor who looks all the world like Matt Smith.
Yes, has the bow tie and the floppy hair.
And the
yes.
doctor's like, okay, I get what's going on. Sure. I totally approve of this. Wink, wink. And I thought that was, I liked that. So I thought some clever stuff here. The war machine itself is just sort of thing that is a MacGuffin, is like, oh yeah, we have this alien. It's going to destroy the world.
Yeah.
And, but it's really more about them developing this new dynamic, which I thought I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is by Gareth Roberts and Stephen Moffat. So Gareth Roberts wrote The Lodger and Closing Time. So those are the ones with Matt Smith on present day Earth. So similar vein and kind of cool, right? To see, all right, Matt Smith, very successful, fits in, weird, but fits in, very, everybody loves him and all that kind of stuff. And so what would the 12th Doctor look like in the same scenario? A complete mess in terms of his ability to fit in and stuff like that. I think Capaldi is really good here. Again, we're getting his character down and, sort of figuring out how to make the sort of prickliness work. I don't like his the sort of immediate dismissal of Danny and the insulting him as like, it doesn't quite work, because it does come off as mean. It's just like, oh, he can't be. It doesn't help that he's one of the only black actors that we're dealing with. It's like, oh, you can't be a math teacher. That's not great. And then, that just immediate, oh, you're a soldier and I don't like you and all that. Again, it comes out of nowhere for him.
Is that ever explained?
No, there's no
soldier
real
thing?
explanation for it as far as I can tell. I mean,
Weird.
It comes in at the end as to sort of his understanding of himself, and he does come to kind of a revelation, but I don't know. I don't know if it ever really works for me. Yeah, and I like, I thought Danny's very good here. I think his reactions to finding out about the Doctor are great. I really like Clara's is a nicely sort of grounded reaction too, of Clara sort of being, especially, I guess it's also commentary in their double life. Is she's like, whoa, hey, these are real people. Like, these are students, and like, these are people I know here. And like, if they're in danger, like, it's like, which is interesting, right? Because it's like, yeah, if I'm on some alien world and it's, fish people or whatever, then whatever. But, but like, it's like, whoa, here, these are actual people, which is, I don't know if that's how it would really play out. Obviously, I've never been kidnapped by an alien, but it's an interesting dynamic, again, reflecting that sort of idea of this double life, which is going to definitely get developed not only in this season but in future seasons, about sort of how she's reacting. Because definitely the storyline about sort of Danny's reaction to her and this leading the double life and the deceptions and all that kind of stuff, how that plays out. Yeah, the robot is pretty underwhelming, as a character or whatever, but yeah, it's just moving the plot along. And then I thought it was an interesting choice we're 6 episodes into the season, to rip the Band-Aid off of, hey, I hang out with an alien time traveler, right? Like, it's, you could see that being holding that arc till the end. Or you could see even just playing with that a little bit more of like, ooh, what's going on? She's suspicious, creating this dramatic tension.
Oh, so you're saying extend the beginning of the episode?
Yeah, like, right, right.
And
yeah,
that to
play that out over a
episodes.
few episodes of like, and then have it sort of come to a head. So an interesting choice to rip that Band-Aid off and be like, nope, let's just deal with that directly. And it definitely comes to a head. This one has, and this brings up, you mentioned Courtney, the schoolgirl. She travels with him at the end. She's also going to be in the next episode. In the second time now that we've had the Doctor wander off with school children, which is a interesting trend.
So does she become a companion?
Just one episode. You might see her again towards the end of the season as well. But she's, I guess, recurring. But also, the Doctor has the great lines. One of my favorite Peter Capaldi lines, which is, he's having some conversation with her, and he's basically like, oh, you humans live such short little lives, you should be all running around in a constant state of panic. Which is a very nice line. But yeah, it's a solid story in general. Yeah.
Well, why don't we move on to our classic episode, The War Machines, which is season 3. Story number 10 of that season, but story number 27 overall. It's still very, very much in the beginning there. In fact, we're with the first Doctor,
but getting to the very end of the first, third to last of the first.
It's and it's a 4-parter, June 25th to July 16th, 1966. And as you mentioned, we enter with Dodo But we leave with Polly and Ben,
Mm-hmm.
and Dodo very unceremoniously leaves. But why don't we listen to the clip here of the War Machines?
There is one special human brain that Votan needs. The task of leading this brain here to serve Votan will be an extremely delicate matter. It has been arranged.
Someone is coming.
The fourth member, called here to receive orders. The doctor's secretary.
What are my instructions?
Well, I think you would agree Doctor Who is required.
Yeah. This should be really the tagline for our podcast. This is famously the only time in the series that he is referred to as Doctor Who several times, repeatedly.
I think they do it other times.
No, they make a joke. They're sort of like Doctor Who. It's always like a play on words.
Well, that's so weird. Why did they do? Yeah, because they do it several times.
Yeah, this is I think new producers kind of taking over here. So maybe a misunderstanding about that, but yeah, done several times. So Stephen Moffat, who loves to troll fans on Twitter when he's allowed to be on Twitter, Stephen Moffat keeps saying, he's like, look, canonically, his name is Doctor Who. It's Doctor Who in the credits. They refer to him as Doctor Who on screen. Like you can try to argue any way you want. His name is Doctor Who. If you wanted to go by what we've been told on screen, there's nothing to counteract that. And obviously, fans would be.
That's funny.
By that. Yeah.
All right, so we're in their modern day.
Yeah,
and we're in London, near, as you mentioned, the Post Office Tower, which I guess is a landmark in London.
Well, it's a hideously ugly building in
Modern
the middle
building.
of there was clearly it was built in the 60s and opened, it really did open just when this story was coming out. And it is, when you see it now, it just looks so, and it's like yeah, this is what people in the 60s thought was going to be futuristic. It's just it looks so ridiculous.
That's funny.
But yes.
Well, and we meet a couple of professors, the first Doctor and Dodo, and they meet a couple of professors, and they're like, hey, we're going to very prescient, very of our times. They're like, hey, we're going to turn on this computer that has a bunch of AI and can figure stuff out for us and is more powerful than the human brain. What could go wrong? Let's turn it on quickly and connect it to all other major computers across the world.
Yeah, that would never happen today.
Including the computers in the White House, it says. Anyway.
Votan and
Wotan.
No, but it's pronounced with the German. It's also like
Wotan.
Wotan will say very excited to attach to the computer.
Which is WOTAN. It's short for Will Operating Thought Analog, which is a strange acronym because it's not like Votan means anything. So why did you force this into an acronym? But it is sort of a weird, creepy name for it. So
but is that also? So maybe I'm missing. Is that the correct pronunciation? So if you saw a word, I would have said Wotan, right? I would have said Wotan. But all the characters pronounce it Wotan, which is the German way you would say W, but none of them are German. So,
no.
Okay, so I'm not. It's okay.
I didn't really. Yeah, that just sort of fell into the background for me. But you're right. Yeah,
it allows us to do our perfect German accents. I always enjoy doing accents.
Yes. Yeah. So. And then we also meet one of the professor's secretary, a delightful young lady named Polly. Interesting. She seems to be getting a lot of lines. Let's see.
Almost like they want us to like her.
And so Dodo's along. And by the way, here's the thing. Dodo's fine. Dodo's better than Susan. We can all agree with that. And Dodo is fine. And so Dodo is sent to go with Polly. While the men talk,
yeah, they're youth. They
They're
go
like,
to a
go to the
club.
nightclub.
Yeah, the cool hip
The
nightclub.
Inferno.
Which is very
So
busy at apparently 5 o'clock in the afternoon or something.
afternoon. So anyway, so they're talking about they're talking about Votan, and then we cut between that and the nightclub, and yeah, as you say, the early afternoon club, the dusk club.
Well, also like the doctor. This is pre-psychic paper. The doctor just barges into these places, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're the doctor." Sure. Like, I mean, just no explanation as to how this random person who blows up from nowhere, no credentials, nothing, is talking to ministers and go to the and all this. It's like, okay. And then I do love the scene where he's let's test the computer's metal, and he's like, what's the square root of like some number? And then it's like prints out, it like takes 20 minutes to print out a piece of paper, and he's like, looks right. It's one of the most powerful computers ever made.
Right. So you're yeah. They're like, he couldn't possibly solve this simple math equation. Well, okay. So once they turn on Votan and connect it to the larger internet, essentially, it immediately begins hypnotizing everyone and putting them under their control. It's basically, I love this era of sci-fi because I love the black and white. The machines are so goofy looking, and like the robots and the machines are imbued with such incredible powers. Like, how could it be hypnotizing them? It's just fascinating, but it's hypnotizing them somehow. And so it hypnotizes all the people in charge and immediately like sets the entire military industrial complex, because it now has power over all of them, to begin building what it's calling war machines. And
overnight, like the
yeah.
parts and stuff, like within hours, are being assembled. It's like, don't you have to make those?
No. Suddenly, the government contractors are like moving with light speed. It's never been done in history, and it all has to do with Votan's hypnotism. By the way, cutting back to the club, Polly's hanging out with Dodo, and then it's really it's funny how they just wanted this to be the character, but they're just like, hey, by the way, that sailor you met before, he's still here and he's still grumping around. And she's like, all right, I'll go talk to him. So it's just funny that Ben and Polly are done this way, where it's like they clearly had this clear idea that, well, we want this sailor and we want this kind of personality. We don't want him to know Polly, really. They're just kind of met, but they get on. But like, and so yeah, that's Ben. We meet Ben in the club. And then they talk for like 2 seconds and lose Dodo because Votan. I don't know, when did Votan hypnotize her?
He calls her. Because Votan can use the phone, and they call her, and it's like some sort of signal.
The phone.
Yeah,
okay.
Anyway. I think and she comes back. Yeah.
So the doctors, they're trying to figure that out. He's almost possessed by Votan, but he's
too strong.
But Dodo lets him know about the war machines. The war machines look like crude Daleks. They look like square, like Daleks built out of Legos or something.
It's kind of, it was thought that they might be really take off like the Daleks. Like they were like, this is the next big thing, everybody. And I enjoy how they only can destroy cardboard boxes. Like they really smash through empty cardboard boxes. That is their primary power.
But if you put like rope around them, then they can't get past that, right? Because the doctor marshals Ben and some others and gets some rope. And I should say, in this whole time, we do meet Ben and Polly, and yeah, they're very personable. Like, they're very likable, I think.
Yeah, they're fun. They're I like the slight dynamic of like, Ben is was sort of working class sailor guy, and he calls her Duchess, and like you get that dynamic of why of their back and forth. It's kind of interesting. It's like, where are they? I obviously she had seen him before, or they'd met before at the club, and you're just kind of like, did they sleep together the night before? And now she's like, it's like,
well, right,
and they have a little
kind of
something
like
going on.
They're interested in each other, but they're also kind of like, hey, we're not sure, but maybe, right? Let's see.
We're vibing.
Anyway, so yeah, they figure out this plan to lure some of the war machines. Then and they disable one or two of them. And then I love they cut to the pub also in the middle of the day, though that's very believable in England. People are just at the pub at any hour. It's just sort of a meeting place, because there were just like old women and men talking, and the news comes on about the war machines. And so what I like about that scene is that they communicate through the news. They're saying, by the way, you know, some of the war machines have been defeated. There's still others out there. Everyone is just at apparently this is a worldwide emergency, but like everyone's just kind of like talking about whatever. Like, look, they got a couple of the war machines. That's nice. Anyway, back to this conversation that we're having, and I just really enjoyed it. Not because it's not at all unbelievable. That could be what would happen, but I love that they felt the need to cut to it. The idea that this is worldwide news, but also that people kind of aren't really reacting to it with much urgency.
Yeah, whatever.
So
things gonna
anyway,
happen.
they trap
players
him
gonna
in,
hate. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the ropes are actually an electromagnetic force field. I'm sorry. They looked for all the world to me like ropes, but okay.
There's more going on there.
So, you know, a couple people die, but not most of them, and then so we get back together, and then the doctor kind of Wotan is destroyed, and he before he can give the final order, and they get returned to normal. So the doctor's just waiting at the TARDIS, and then Ben and Polly show up and say like, "Oh, you know, Dodo's just gonna stay in London.
She's poochy.
She didn't want to show up to tell you."
Yeah, they poochied Dodo. She's like, she called. She's not gonna come back. And I'm like, oh, okay. Dodo called and said goodbye.
And it was disappointing because like, I like Dodo fine. I think this was this as a kind of handoff episode between one companion to the next. I thought it was a good episode for Dodo. Got to do stuff in this episode.
Yeah, although she's gone by episode 2. Like she's basically written out after they.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, she's like she's like, oh, she. I mean, it's even worse. Like she went to a farm upstate to recover. You're just like, is she dead?
So
yeah, she's
that's
poochy.
unfortunate.
I have to go back to my planet now.
But yeah, and then definitely a surprise that Ben and Polly just hop in.
Yeah.
So what the next story is the Smugglers.
The Smugglers. We've listened to that one. That was the one
We
with the
listened to
pirates.
it.
Yeah, it was an audio only they were in the pirates.
I'd like to go back and watch the beginning of that because like, how does the doctor? First of all, is the TARDIS not locked? Like,
no, they have a key. I think somehow
Dodo gave
at some point earlier Ben got a key either from the doctor or Dodo. And so they, I think they go tell the doctor that Dodo's not coming back, and he's like, "Oh, okay," and then he leaves, and then they turn around and Ben's like, "Oh, I've got his key," and then they turn around and they use the key to go inside, and that's sort of that accidental.
It made me think of
Trey.
Arrested Development that the TARDIS got some hop-ons. You got to watch out for the hop-ons in the TARDIS. But is he upset? I just don't remember that episode.
He's bemused. He's just kind of like, because remember they don't. So let's see, the beginning of Smugglers, they don't believe. They have that weird thing where they're like, they then open the doors and they're on a beach in Cornwall. And they're like, all right, well, that's just about plausible, but I don't think we've traveled in time. We could instantly transport to Cornwall, but not travel in time. So yeah, he's got this sort of bemused attitude towards them the whole time, which is like, all right, it's sort of oh, you funny young people. I think he keeps referring to them as young people. He's like, you funny young people. Yeah, this is by Ian Stewart Black, who wrote a bunch of episodes of The Avengers and things like that. So also sort of sci-fi modern stuff, or present day kind of stuff, or near future stuff. You've got the Dodo badly written out. I think this is the producers basically. It was new producers coming in, taking the show in a direction. They knew Hartnell was being written out, and they basically kind of fired Dodo, and we're like, yeah, we're not gonna pick up your contract again. She really, the actress, I'm blanking her name. She became an agent, actually, and represented some of other people. Was
Dodo is Jackie Lane.
Jackie Lane, that's it. Very reluctant to do much. She did a couple interviews, never really did too many conventions and stuff like that. She passed away not long ago, and people were always they're like, oh, people actually liked her. She just never got a great shake. Her writing, her characters all over the place. We've seen her in The Gunfighter. She's great in that. We've seen her in Celestial Toymaker of the Ark. I think we've actually seen almost all of her stories at this point.
Well, I didn't see the Savages. I don't remember that
Savages one. Is that's the last Steven. Yeah, that's an audio one. We haven't gotten to that one yet.
But yeah, Celestial Toymaker of the Ark. Yeah, we saw.
Yeah, we've seen them all. So yeah, she just never really got a great shake. This is not. This is. I will say this is. And we'll talk about this in themes a little bit. Oddly jarring to see the first Doctor in the present day. I mean, this definitely feels like a template for like, some of the Patrick Troughton stories and unit stories. Like this is clearly a template for the unit stuff, right? He immediately connects with the authorities and is involved and working with the military and stuff like that. But it's weird to me anyway. It's very jarring to see the first Doctor in this scenario, right? Like he's, this is, I can't think of, I'm trying to think, I'm not sure if there's another story where he's in present day, except, the beginning of The Unearthly Child when he picks up Barbara and Ian. He's never really in present day London, certainly with the frequency that the Doctor comes back now.
Right.
And so it's weird. It just has a weird, like, and they play with that a little. I love William Hartnell in the nightclub, with the, all the, and at one point
So
the
he's
woman's
a
like,
DJ.
yeah, the woman's like, oh yeah, they thought he was a DJ. They're like, oh, he looks like that DJ. Like, oh, I love your fab gear. It's just like, what? Yes, fab gear. But yeah, definitely an interesting. Shows you at the end of an era that they could do something completely new.
Themes. What are they good for? Absolutely nothing. Except they are
good for a lot of things. Yeah,
for a lot of things. And we are adherents of the repeating themes.
It was your theme protest song.
It lost steam real quick. We are adherents to the repeating themes here. Noon on the Mind Probe, we like to look at ideas and thoughts that form the spine and the backbone and the interstitial fluid of our universe, as well as Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
John, what did you want to discuss with these episodes?
Let's talk about present day set stories. You've got and how they work in maybe in sci-fi. So you've got three stories you can tell. You can tell your historical stories, right? And that's a lot of what Doctor started. So you go back in time, and usually some very recognizable era, right? Something that we, sort of the Aztecs, the Marco Polo, the Romans, that kind of thing. And never, usually always something recognizable. Never like, let's go to 1978, like something distinctive. Then you got future stories, like let's go to some alien world, let's go to flying cars and the Jetsons, world and stuff like that. And yeah, then you have present day stories set in contemporary times with the you could. There's some argument, are the unit stories of the third Doctor era and stuff like that, are they contemporary or are they actually slightly in the future? It's not always clear. The politics and something like that seems to be slightly in the future. Like, for example, Europe's extensive space program on Mars. And things like that seem slightly. But then other times it's like, that was pretty much happening today. But certainly modern Who, and the War Machines too, set clearly in using some sort of historical marker of famous people, technological developments, whatever, to clearly ground it as this is happening today. This is happening right now. If you were in London, you could see this as you're watching this. So interesting. Do these stories work in Doctor Who, or are they, are they relatable? Is why the appeal of a present day story? Because it seems like one issue is they date very quickly, right? As soon as, especially anything like so a recent one would be the Bells of St. John, the one with the Wi-Fi was kidnapping people and stuff like that. And like, the technology they're already, sort of gone, sort of dated already. So they date very quickly. But but the other thing is sort of like, I don't know, is it easier to identify with a story like that? Or is it like, I don't know if I want to see the thing that's happening in the present day. I don't know. What do you feel about present day?
Well, for one thing, the show's been going on so long that the present day stories are potentially 60 or 70 years apart from one another.
True. It's now historic. They're now historic.
Yeah. So like the present day story from the 60s are now kind of interesting as like, like we're talking about looking at their nightclub and their so there's that. I mean, with the newish Who, whatever we end up calling
recent Who, yeah,
middle Who, the present day stories tend to involve the lives of the companions, as we discussed with this one. And I usually like that because though I don't want it to all be about that, I like kind of getting them to see them on their home turf, because it flips it, right? We get to see the companion more on their home, potentially, if that's the plot. Sometimes they're just in their time, but they're not necessarily, we're meeting them. especially in the classic Who. But it flips because the Doctor is now the fish out of water, not the companion. Whereas the companion's not getting dropped like in an alien world. It's like, well, now I'm where I am. Weird things are happening, most likely, but I'm used to all this, and the Doctor's kind of the one like picking up. I feel like the Doctor ends up being like Ariel in The Little Mermaid, like picking up a fork and be like, "Oh, do I brush my hair with this?" Like they seem like very fascinated, or actually like in Harry Potter, how the wizards are all fascinated by how Muggles like. So you put food in the oven and cook it, and you wait for it to heat up. Fascinating. So I like that. I liked seeing the first Doctor out of that element a little bit. I don't know. I enjoyed him with this. So I like that. I think the thing that to me that it ends up bringing up more so in in this one too, is that it introduces stuff into the timeline that we are living in. And you're like, wait, so did that happen? But what other things, like what things that I know did happen and then that also happened? Like what was it with the young, not the young, but the kind of backbencher who ends up becoming prime minister? It's been so
Oh
long.
yeah, Harriet Jones. Yeah,
Harriet Jones, where it's like, okay, so then there's this alien attack, and there's this whole big historical moment where Harriet Jones becomes prime minister and stuff. It's like, so that did happen, but also like, I don't know, Bill Clinton was elected. Like, they're just like, how does it all fit in there? That gets a little confusing. But again, I think the beauty of Doctor Who is its fungible nature of all those things of like, I don't know, both things happen. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Someone will explain it. Stephen Moffat will fix it later. I think that's a really good point about it is a way to highlight the Doctor's character because he's on an alien planet, with the Bogons. As Clara says, his behavior isn't necessarily weird. It's weird as seen through the companion's eyes, maybe, but he's probably in the right or do whatever. But set in present day, it allows us as the audience to contrast it more to be like, oh, okay, that is unusual because and I guess you need that a little bit because it does. Maybe you need to create a little bit of distance. Like I think some of the writers have said, the Doctor isn't. You don't see the Doctor's point of view. When they novelized the Doctor stories, they never wrote from the Doctor's perspective. He's supposed to be distant. I think Andrew Cartmel, one of the scriptures, said he's like a mountain that you see through the mist. Like he's supposed to be sort of elusive and far away and distant and things like that. If you spend too much time seeing the world through his eyes, or at least seeing him in these very odd, outlandish places where he's in control and seems like everything makes sense to him, then maybe you lose that. But then, when you suddenly drop him in the middle of, a toy store in present day, or if they're playing, football or something like that, then it highlights his oddities and maybe makes the character more alien. So that's just point. And then I think you're right. And this is a challenge Doctor Who's coming up with now, which is at this point, how many alien invasions have actually happened that everybody has seen? And so it's like, and it'll be interesting to see what they do in the 60th anniversary or other stories. It's like if they have another present day story, do they remember the Daleks happening, or are aliens still as mysterious to them? And wait, was Boris Johnson prime minister or not prime minister? We've definitely established Obama was president. Remember, he appeared in, they had him in the End of Time, right? They had the press conference. So like, okay, so Obama's been president, but then also there was another guy who was president who the Master killed in one of the Sound of Drums or whatever episode. So like, he was definitely not Obama. You become, what is the storyline? Whereas, of course, if you could separate it with, this happened in the future, which is maybe why, maybe the unit approach is actually the good one, which is it's happening in a future that you still recognize, but still slightly ahead of us by about 10 years. And maybe that makes it more plausible.
John.
Yeah.
Welcome to the end of the episode. How you doing? Can I get you anything?
Yeah, I'm just finishing up my Probgroni and my water, and I consume a lot of liquids. People, you should drink a lot of liquids when you're watching or listening to No, Not the Mind Probe. It's dehydrating.
A lot of people don't know this, but the human body is 80% water. Mm-hmm. John's actually 81. He pushes a little bit over that. Yeah,
it's true. Yeah. And I gotta watch out for my health. Probers can probably tell I had a colonoscopy recently, so as you can probably see, you can tell I did.
I think
a lot of us.
You wear it well, but
got a little glow.
John, we are
Yeah.
ranking the first 300 official Doctor Who television stories. We have ranked
Because we must.
182 of them
Mm-hmm.
because we must, and we're gonna rank these two. So I'll go first.
Do it.
The Caretaker. I have for me this was good,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit higher than middle of the pack, but not much higher for me.
Okay.
I enjoyed seeing the dynamic between them, but the plot and the villain or alien, if you want to call it, wasn't much. So I have it around, I believe it's number 70. So not super low at all. Like, but yeah, right next to Utopia, The Waters of Mars, some of those David Tennant specials I apparently put together. At any rate, Partners in Crime, Midnight. Yeah, so I have it in that area. I think I'm hopeful for more of this. I like the addition of Danny. I think that's going to ground the Clara a bit
Finally
more.
getting some Clara story. Yeah.
And then we are seeing, like, yeah, I feel like the Peter Capaldi, either I'm getting used to him or he's finding his feet. I don't know which is which, but I feel like he's becoming more of like a defined, oh, this is how this Doctor works. So, okay, I'm going to shock you. I'm going to put the War Machines higher.
Ooh.
I just liked it.
Okay.
It's like it's the kind of sci-fi I like. I liked Ben and Polly. I liked I thought Dodo was good too in it. And it's not like a good plot, but I just sort of enjoyed this. It reminds me, though that one is better done, but the Dalek Invasion of Earth, it just sort of reminded me of this sort of weird dumb sci-fi.
It's 50s pulp sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
Robots, evil robots trying to take over the Earth.
And I like that it's black and white. I like the first Doctor in it. So anyway, I didn't rank it like top 10 or anything. I ranked it 48, but I just I know it's probably not maybe seen as one of the best, but I liked it. And anyway, I have it right next to, I have it just above Talons of Weng Chiang and Snowmen, and just below Planet of the Dead, Dr. Widow and the Wardrobe. But yeah, just kind of nearer to the top. I thought it was a really good, enjoyable first Doctor story.
You like 50s sci-fi. You like hokey, fun sci-fi. Yeah, I
like when they
get that.
Like and I think it's
like Robot.
The 50s help, like the 50s sort of the acting in those 50s sci-fi movies are what I want. When we get into the 60s, I think the color like hurts actually to have it be in color, and then people get a little too mod and out there with their act. I think that this works for me. I also want to say that apparently I'm looking into this and now thinking back on it, this makes sense to me given what I've seen of them. This is like the only story where we really just get to see Ben and Polly like the whole way. Most of the other ones have like missing parts, right? Or
this is true.
I'm looking through. I'm trying to find one that's not missing. And I'm not finding it.
We'll see a lot of bits of them, but yeah, this is the only one with, I think, because they leave in the faceless ones
missing. Because we get at the beginning of the second Doctor, and that's where all the missing.
Yeah.
So hey, I like Ben and Polly, and so I get to see.
You got to see them. Yeah. We're somewhat in agreement on the Caretaker. I've got it at number 68, right around closing time into the Dalek. Right around closing time, which would make sense because it's a similar story, right? Doctor set in present day Earth, and fish out of water for him. I like the Clara. I like finally, as you say, I like that finally we've got a storyline for Clara that's sort of like, okay, she's how does she deal? She's a workaday. She's a modern woman in a workaday world, just trying to have it all, and she's got this Doctor situation to deal with. And I like that.
I'd like to revisit that nanny and thing with the kids, where clearly the guy was really interested in her.
Yeah. Seems to be a running theme with her. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, it's a solid story. I think it's funny. I like. I think it could be funnier. I maybe that would. It'd be nice if it, Peter Capaldi, I think, is a very good comic actor. It could be funnier. His irrational dislike of Danny. Does the plot, with the robot doesn't matters not at all. Which is fine. It's a good character piece. War Machines, I've got lower than you. It's a solid episode. It doesn't. It could probably be shaved down to 2 parts if we needed to.
Probably.
If I had to recount what's going on, there's a lot of lengthy scenes of them building the robots, and there's a lot of box smashing. Those robots smash a lot of cardboard boxes. It's a little clunky and hokey, which is fun. They're fun. I like Ben and Polly. They're great. It's sad that Dodo is written out the way she is. Again, there's just for whatever reason, it's weird. It's just a weird story to me in the sense of like, it's just like, this is not a Hartnell story. This is not where Hartnell is supposed to be. So maybe that throws me off a little. So I've got it 106, right around the Macra Terror
It is. That's
colony in space.
similar to
Kinda
that.
got-
Yeah.
that kind of vibe. And we should say this is the last full story with Hartnell in it. That we have all 4 parts on video. We'll get to the 10th planet, I think, but this is he's leaving the show. The producers are trying to push him out the door, and his health is starting to fail and stuff like that. But I think he's pretty solid in this, very heroic, and stands up to the War Machine. So give him a lot of credit for that. But number 106 for me. So here we are. So
Well, let's put him into the supercomputer here,
Boop, 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 boop,
and
boop.
find that the Caretaker ends up at 61, tied with Partners in Crime.
Sure. I think I had it around there. Yeah.
Then the War Machines ends up at 80, time with Image of the Fendal.
Yeah,
But
not bad.
what's interesting when I noted here is that, so I ranked the War Machine 48, you ranked it 106.
Mhm.
We have like 6 or 7 others that are in the same thing that I rank in the 40s and you ranked right around 100. Planet of the Dead, The Next Doctor, The Macroterra, Amy's Choice, Victory of the Daleks, Hand of Fear, The War Machines. They're all we have this apparently section of our rankings that you could cut and paste from mine and just drop 60 down and they're in yours. I don't know what's similar about that, but the Macroterra does feel samey to this one, and
Yeah.
I similarly liked the sci-fi, like big crab monster, stuff like that.
They're good. Yeah, it's another 50s. Yeah,
Yep.
big sci-fi monster story set in a futuristic colony, right? Which with everybody wearing the same uniform. Yeah, so a lot of parallels there.
Love it.
Yeah. Should we give where we are in the Who rankings?
Oh, yes.
So Doctor
I
Who
always forget
magazine.
this. Every time I always
Grandpa-
forget the Who
that's
magazine rankings.
Why I'm here. I'm trying to get a cross promotion with Doctor Who magazine. Okay, so where is this? Caretaker comes in very low for Peter Capaldi. Interestingly, 31 of 35.
Whoa.
So surprisingly low, actually.
Has some fun moments. That's weird.
Yeah, lower than Robot of Sherwood, lower than pretty much. There's a couple more. Actually, there's several more this season that sort of round out the bottom. So, but yes, definitely on the low side. The War Machine's high for Hartnell comes in at number 8, 8 of 29. So considered one of the top Hartnells. I wonder partly if this is because it exists, always a plus when trying to
Well,
rank.
like you said, it is different.
Yeah, I think it's different. I think it definitely feels like modern Who or more modern Who, so that may have also it's shifted a lot. So in 98 it was number 6, then it plunged to 12, and then it just crawled back up to 8 from 12. So got a big boost. But so one of the more fondly remembered Hartnells, which I wouldn't have said.
One thing is interesting, and this is early days here because we've just done, I think this is the 6th episode we said of Capaldi.
Yeah.
He is far and away your favorite Doctor. So as of now, which is just funny. And then I say that, and he's almost tied for my favorite Doctor now. So as much as I'm like, I don't like these episodes so far, I think what it is, and maybe there will be one coming, but we've not had a real stinker. So they've all been like good, pretty good.
Yeah.
But we haven't had, I forget what it was. There was a couple real low ones for the 10th Doctor that came along where it was like, oh yeah,
Fear Her, not a great one.
Fear Her, yeah. Haven't had any of those.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, there's a lot more to go of Capaldi. But it's just funny because I think of us saying is sort of like, a little bit underwhelmed, not quite as strong of a start, as Matt Smith. But at the same time, it's like, but we're ranking these like pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah.
You can see our rankings on mindprobe.show/rankings, or you can just go to mindprobe.show and click on the hypertext links. You can subscribe to us on, check us out on YouTube. We should mention, hi, we're waving to the camera.
Hi.
We film these and they're on YouTube. You can subscribe to the podcast there. We'd love it if
see
you
our
did.
heads.
You can see our floating heads, and you can give us a like on there on those videos.
Subscribe, comment. You can comment.
Yes,
we could talk to you there if we haven't answered any of your emails, because I never check the email account.
Oh, well, you should. It's Porter at mindprobe.show, John at mindprobe.show. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and we'd love it if you gave us a rating and review there. John, what are we going to talk about next episode? Probably we're going to talk. I think finally we'll talk a little bit about the 60th anniversary episode.
Yes, we'll have
that
seen
won't be the main focus, but we'll touch on that.
We'll bring in a new segment called Current Who.
Yeah,
a current will be like a current affair, but we'll call it a Current Who.
And then you know what? I'll be a real contemporary of your just a Who fan talking to another Who fan,
shooting from the hip.
You know,
No more remedial.
With a huge gap missing in his Who knowledge still, because I haven't watched literally anything from Jodie Whittaker.
You'll be fine. Yeah. Well, we're going to the moon, Porter. To the moon.
Ooh.
So I've been doing a Ralph Kramer in there because spousal abuse is funny. That was funny.
Spousal abuse is very
back
funny.
in the day. I don't think he ever hit Alice. I think he just threatened to hit her, which is
that's right.
Okay.
Which is fine.
Yeah, that's
fine.
Okay. That's just assault. That's just assault, not battery. Yes, heading on to the next story, Peter Capaldi and Clara and Courtney, for whatever reason, they head to the moon. They visit the moon.
No Danny?
No Danny, but they head off and they visit the moon in a controversial story. This is one that rent Who fandom asunder, as they say. Somewhat controversial story, Kill the Moon. An interesting title. And since we've got a story set on the moon, again, another easy one to pair with. We're going to see some more Ben and Polly. The second Doctor, Jamie, Ben and Polly. For the moon base. Now, here's another complicated one. This is a 4-parter. 2 parts are missing, but they have been animated. So when you use your contacts, however you get whoever sources your Who, you can get audio only versions of the episodes, but I think you should be able to find the animations of 2 of them. So that's going to be the moon base.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to visit the moon, and I have a feeling like if I watch these episodes, it's almost be like virtual reality. Like it'll be like I'm there.
Be like there.
Should I watch these with an Apple Vision Pro?
Yes, obviously.
Oh,
obviously.
Okay. All right.
This is going to be some fantastic 1960s BBC television depictions of walking on the moon and what the moon is like. The physics of the moon are very impressive. Yeah, it's going to be it's going to knock your socks off. Oh, and the Cybermen. I didn't even mention the Cybermen are in it. How exciting it is.
I love the Cybermen.
You got a big Cybermen fan.
Mindprobe.show.